Now, world leaders and relevant stakeholders have been meeting at the climate summit in Azerbaijan. Delegates at that climate gathering have approved new standards for a global carbon market. It would allow richer countries to offset carbon pollution by investing in clean energy projects or forests in poorer countries. Now, after years of discussions, the new framework has been hailed as a major breakthrough which can reassure buyers and sellers. Analysts say these credits are very attractive to richer countries in Europe, as it's far cheaper to pay for a wind farm in Africa than to subsidize heat pumps at home. But how is the conference happening miles away in Azerbaijan relevant to Nigerians and Africans? Joining me now is Dosung Takur. She's the Chief Programs Director, Chief Programs Officer at Clean Tech Hub Nigeria. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
On Newsnight tonight. Very interesting, that point made. I mean, this conference happening far away in Azerbaijan, what's it got to do with us? How do we factor in the scheme of things? I mean, we heard from Antonio Guterres, the UN Secretary General, that there has to be climate justice. And I wonder exactly what that means, especially when you place that side by side with Azerbaijan making a case defending fossil fuels at COP29.
I mean, it's very, very funny that you should say that, because the last COP, which was at Dubai, and I happened to attend it, we also heard that there were some deals going on at the back end where they were talking about fossil fuels and how they could do that. And then here we were talking about the environment and how the effects of climate change are actually affecting the environment. And I think that for Nigeria, or for, let me say, global South countries in Africa especially, I think that the effects of climate change now are speaking for us more than we would have ever said. Right. So there are frequent floodings now, and we're seeing how the migration is affecting people. People are moving from north down south because that's where, you know, there's food for their animals and whatnot have you. And we're seeing that these things are actually affecting us in Nigeria. And so when you ask, because many times, especially in our field, we find out that when we talk about climate change, people think it's such a big thing, and it doesn't concern us. Yeah. But I mean, the effects of it is what is affecting us. We are not the ones causing this, because we have talked about it, and we've talked about it for a very long time. The Western countries are the ones that are instigating this. And
they contribute almost 80% of emissions.
Yes, and then yet the countries in Africa are the ones that are affected by it. I think we should go past that discussion now and start looking for ways that we can solve the problem. Enough of the blaming, and that is why, if you don't mind me saying, is one of the things that they started talking about in the past few years is about the loss and damage fund, right? And looking at how countries, richer countries, well, okay, if you're not going to stop your fossil fuel, if you're not going to stop flaring your gas, you must give us money to be able to, you know, mitigate these changes and be able to create solutions that will help us.
And it looks like some progress is being made in that direction.
Yes.
At least there's a level of commitment.
Yes.
To the tune of $120 billion.
I mean, I'm not being, okay, let's all be optimistic. Because we said this in Dubai last year, right? And I think UAE had promised about $100 million or so. But so the money is there, but then less than half, or I would even say maybe about 20% of that comes to Africa. And so you find out, like my organization, it takes so much time for us to even get funds to do the things that we're supposed to do. And so, yes, we talk about and we pledge money. I hope that this time around we actually take it further and the actions are made, and, you know, we're able to handle this case.
So where does Nigeria stand? I mean, how is Nigeria faring in terms of practical steps to take to mitigate the impact of climate change? What really should we be doing?
I think that so far what we're doing, we're far cry from where we should be, but I think that as Nigerians, I think that we are we are on the right path and we're moving on steady.
What are we doing?
Well, okay, it's not plastic, but the governor of Lagos State bans styrofoam. So what we need to do is start introducing cultures that take us away from heavily dependent fossil fuel economy, right? So talking to women in the communities how to stop felling down trees and, you know, start using clean cook stoves. And we're doing our work and then creating awareness, talking about it, advocating, showing people that this is what is happening, and if we don't do something about it, we would not be here in, the scientists say by 2040, we may not be here. We need to start working on it. But I understand that a lot of people have the school of thoughts that, you know, these countries are developing with fossil fuels. And so
why stop us?
Why stop us from...
when it's our turn. And when I say, of course,
and so what Nigeria
Azerbaijan made a similar case. Yes, in fact, asked a very pertinent question. Why should we be blamed for, you know, God-given natural resources? Yes.
Okay, I understand that. But that is where, for me, I now say this is where the just transition the energy just transition comes in. We are not hopping from one place to the other. There is something, we have to phase out little by little. So we take from here, we keep here. So we're not saying, okay, stop using fuel completely or stop, but what can we use? So like the government now is talking about CNG, transition fuels. What can we use in the interim while we're phasing out? I don't think that people should jump from one place to the other, but there should be an easy way of phasing out of it.
Maybe the plan really should be using the proceeds of, you know, fossil fuels to prepare for that for that world.
Yes.
Nigeria has a net zero objective by 2030.
2030.
Right.
Yeah.
You think we're on track as far as that is concerned?
No.
No. So what really do we need to do in practical terms
to get to 2030
to achieve this objective, net zero?
Well,
is it realistic? Even.
It's not realistic for 2030, but if we start now, maybe in another 10 or so years, we can get there. But policies, but then again, like I always say, not just policies, but implementing them and making sure that they are adhered to, you know. So you remember when we were young and we had sanitation, you remember that? Where last Saturdays of the month, we used to clean our environment and we were not allowed to step out of our houses before 9 or 10 p.m.
I actually thought you were going to talk about tree planting, you know, because that really should be one of the major things. Unfortunately, while growing up, we thought it was punishment, but no, it's not.
Yes, you know, so I'm just talking about these little things that, the culture that we imbibe. And yes, tree planting too is very, very important. You cut down, if you must cut down one plant, three or so. Yeah, so it's very important that we imbibe this kind of cultures again. It would help.
Thank you so much. I have to say thank you. We'll have to leave it there. But good news that I actually heard today or read somewhere that Kenya discovered plastic-eating insect. Let's see what will come out of that eventually. Dosun Takur, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.